While most of us remain blissfully unaware, the world is in the grip of a wave of extinctions unrivaled since the disappearance of the dinosaurs. Sadly for us, nowhere on Earth are more species vanishing than here in Australia. I've just returned from a wildlife stocktake of sorts, a journey around the country to examine the devastating effects of this man-made calamity. I came face to face with some of the most remarkable creatures I've ever seen. But tragically, their disappearance is happening so quickly, so quietly, it may well have been the first and last time I'll see these national treasures, except perhaps in a museum. Our journey begins on Western Australia's rugged southern shoreline in search of a creature called Gilbert's potteroo. It lives only here at a place called Two People's Bay, perched on the edge of our continent and on the very edge of extinction.
Yeah, that's Gilbert's potteroo. He's a fungi-eating marsupial.
Oh, he's beautiful. Would it be all right if I touch him?
Sure.
Oh, he's soft. Tony Friend is just one of many scientists we'll meet on this journey. In wild and lonely places across the vast reaches of Australia, it's too often the same discouraging story. So we only know for sure that there are 18 of these creatures
That's
alive.
right. And we've trapped
on the whole
over.
planet.
Yeah, on the whole planet.
And across that whole sorry saga of species loss, where does this fellow rate?
Well, he's certainly number one endangered mammal in Australia. And I don't know of other mammals that are more endangered anywhere on the planet.
Scientists have an appalling term for creatures like Gilbert's potteroo. They call them the living dead. In isolated pockets around the country are dozens of critically endangered animals, their numbers reduced to the point where almost inevitably they will be swept away in the wave of extinctions engulfing the whole continent.
The major crisis we face in the future is knowing that there will be Australian animals for the next generation of Australians to appreciate.
Isn't it just like this, a pavement of fascinating fossils all...
Biologist Mike Archer is head of the Australian Museum. Born in Australia, but raised and educated in the United States, he returned to take up the depressing life's work of cataloguing our nation's shameful record of extinction.
The number that we've lost, say, just in the mammals alone, is probably 30% of the species of the whole world that have disappeared. So there are extinctions going on here at a very, very rapid rate.
Australia's such a big country with such a small population. How did we develop this problem?
Land clearance. That's got to be the worst thing. The notion of felling our forests for wood chips is an appalling thing. We've introduced horrendous animals. They're not just the average animals from other lands. They are the ones that have gotten to the top. Hard-hoofed animals that are chewing up the surface of Australia with their feet and their mouths. Australia is blowing away into the ocean. There's hardly a square centimeter of Australia that we're not in some way severely damaging.
Since white settlement, we've lost more than 400 animals. That's 2 species dead for every year of European civilization. The roll call of the vanished presents an infamous parade of our stolen future. We've travelled to the other side of the continent. Despite time and distance, the story has a dark sameness. We're in the coastal woodland of far north Queensland, where forestry and sugar farming have eroded the habitat of the beautiful but sadly elusive mahogany glider.
It's a bit like looking for the needle in the haystack, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Often you can go a whole night and not see any at all.
So hold the light up and look for eyes.
Well, you really want any sort of movement you can get, but an eye is okay if there's nothing else happening here.
We'd searched all night with not even a fleeting glimpse. What I hate about this window cleaning job are the early mornings. And now, at first light, we're back in the forest with Queensland scientist Steve Van Dyke, the man who rediscovered the mahogany glider long after it had been written off as extinct. The trouble is, the numbers are now so few that the only way we'll ever see one is by humanely trapping it.
Look at that, Charlie. Didn't think you were going to see one of those, did you?
No, I didn't. I must admit I thought that was one endangered species I'd lost forever.
Once this was a common nocturnal sight. Now pictures like these can only be captured in a catch and release situation. And the gliders certainly performed for our camera, soaring up to 70 metres through the forest canopy. And if we ever needed any convincing, the flight of the glider is in itself a most eloquent expression of what Australia has to lose.
I'll show you these teeth. And here are the lower ones. See those? The ones I was telling you, these
Good
sabres.
heavens! For such a sweet little animal, he's got huge, vicious teeth, hasn't he?
The bottom ones are incredibly long and almost sabre-like. Now, see the gliding membrane there? You hold that out.
Can I?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and that opens up.
The colour.
Isn't it just sensational?
Apricot.
The Earth has had at least 5 major extinction episodes, and in fact many, many more than that, but 5 whoppers, where you might have lost as many as 50% of the species in the world at the time. Sometimes as much as 80% of the creatures living just vanished. But always, after a period of readjustment, the system is okay. The major worry that we have now is that we have so destroyed the base from which the replenishment of the world needs to occur that it may not be possible again to fill the world with the kind of marvelous creatures that replaced the last extinction events.
This particular turtle is 98.2 centimetres long.
At night on a windswept beach near Bundaberg, researcher Duncan Limpus encourages young children to pay homage to an ancient species. This is a loggerhead turtle, one of only 160 remaining in Australia. Scientists believe they've been coming to this beach to lay their eggs for as long as these sands have been
With
here.
that, they need to breed at least 5, maybe 6 times in their life.
The rapid decline in their numbers is caused almost exclusively by them becoming entrapped in commercial fishing nets. It's wonderful and inspiring to see it, but it's also profoundly depressing when you know the statistics, isn't it?
It is depressing. We have many hundreds of loggerhead turtles dying along our coastline each year. We definitely don't have time with these animals. We're seeing the last of dinosaurs.
So she could well be the last of her kind.
Yes, very much so.
Even while eggs are being laid, further down the beach, others have been hatching.
They come out and run straight down the beach.
They know where they're going.
They do. They're heading for the lowest and brightest point of the horizon, which is usually the surf line.
Except this bloke's a bit confused by our lights, I think.
And a little bit of grass there, but
I've got to help him. Like, I know
can
you shouldn't
turn over.
interfere with nature, but you have
And-
so much energy.
they do, and they will swim 24 hours a day the first 3 to 5 days out there in the open ocean.
They feel like some incredibly overwhelmed little machine
They do.
that is just desperate to go in that direction. And it's appalling to think that we're not looking after them properly.
We'll let these little guys go.
All right,
and let them run to the water.
the back of their long journey.
Bye-bye, babies. Good luck.
Good luck, little fella. See you in 20 years.
Not even untrammeled national park wilderness can guarantee the future of a dwindling species. The place is remote southwest Tasmania, and the creature is the orange-bellied parrot. Its fatal mistake is that it prefers only to summer here. It winters hundreds of kilometres away in southern Victoria, where its coastal habitat is fast turning to bitumen and concrete. The fact is, most of our migrating animals risk some kind of double jeopardy.
They have two places that
They can get clobbered at either end.
Yeah.
Mike Archer is visiting Mark Holdsworth, the man entrusted with the protection of this precarious parrot, there are only 200 of them.
Will this worry the birds?
No, they rarely visit the boxes this time of year, so it's only about 2 or 3 times per day that they visit the nest boxes.
It's very efficient.
He makes it look easy.
It does, doesn't it?
Is the unthinkable possible that this could just be another creature that vanishes from the earth?
It can happen. This bird is right on the edge. We could have a couple of bad breeding seasons or a disease that goes through the population, and it could disappear literally within 1 or 2 seasons.
Maybe the best we can hope for are mixed signals. It may be too late for many creatures, but this time, with scientist Tony Friend, we're looking at a more encouraging picture.
We know that trying to bring back endangered animals from the very brink of extinction can be frustrating and depressing work. But sometimes it can also be a moment of great joy and an occasional celebration. This is a numbat. We knew it was here because it's wearing a radio collar. It's Western Australia's mammal emblem, and the most beautiful little creature. Once there were only a couple of hundred of them. Now there's a couple of thousand. Is it a boy or a girl?
Well, this is a female, and even better, it's got 4 tiny pouch young there. They've probably only been born for about
4 babies.
a week or so. The little young ones just hang on to the mother's and actually wind their hands around the fur there.
You're a happy man, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. No,
You're a father.
Well, not quite, but I certainly feel that I've had something to do with it.
Just a couple laps to get them warmed up on it.
Desperate times call for innovative solutions. One of them, Mike Archer suggests, is to create greater security by turning endangered species into popular household pets. After all, there's no shortage of cats and dogs.
They obviously have the ability to bond and accept interactions with humans, as this animal sort of demonstrates. I never thought I would ever hold a Tasmanian devil. You know, I'm really excited about this. This is fantastic.
You can have my turn too. But the most extraordinary idea in modern biology isn't necessarily about preservation, but recreation, bringing back what we so carelessly lost. Perhaps the most celebrated project is already well underway.
We have heart and lungs. The lungs aren't in very good condition.
The attempt to clone from salvaged DNA the extinct thylacine, the Tasmanian tiger. At the Australian Museum, Mike Archer is part of this science fiction project.
I think the immoral thing for us to do would be to not try it. I think we have a kind of an immoral imperative here. If it's possible to undo that horribly immoral thing that humans did by exterminating thylacines through this technology, then I think we have an obligation to do it.
It would be better, of course, not to have to. Better to preserve our wildlife and their habitat before it's too late. It's much easier science, much more affordable, and all it takes is a desire to do it.
We seem obsessed with distinguishing ourselves from the rest of the world, understanding what makes us unique. It is what we stand on. It is this continent. It is this continent's creatures, this continent's habitats. That is what makes every aspect of Australian culture and Australian identity unique. All of our understanding of ourselves that sets us apart from the rest of the world arises from that. If we cut that out from underneath us, we cut out what it means to be Australian.